is Courtney Beerhard. I am the program manager in SID Washington. First and foremost, I want to go ahead and thank the Town Agents team for helping us put this panel together. Justin and Katrina and Geneva have been really instrumental. And then I also want to go ahead and acknowledge the Asia Pacific Work Group co-chairs, Bill Hampton and Jack Andre. If you have any questions, please do approach us. Just a few words about SID Washington. We are a membership organization. We are composed of a lot of nonprofit, for-profit, and consulting firms that work in the international development field. We cover a lot of different sectors and a lot of different topics, different regions, and we really like to think of ourselves as a global town square development. We like to bring a lot of different constituencies together to talk about really important development issues. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. I do encourage you to check out all of the events that we do have going on regularly, and you can do that online. Real quickly, I just want to thank the panelists for joining us today. It's really a pleasure to have you all here with us. I'm just going to go over a format really quickly. We're going to jump right in with the presentations, and then Brian is going to help us to moderate the discussion. And really quickly, I'm going to go through the guest speakers here today. Our moderator, Brian Joseph, is the Senior Director for Asia and Global Programs at the National Endowment of Democracy. And then we have Mr. Nitin Madhav. He is from USAID's office in charge for the Burma, China, and Laos programs. You all have their bios also, so please feel free to take a look at those as well. And then we have Mr. Nakazawa, and he is joining us from JICA, the Japan International Cooperation Agency. And then we also have Mr. Tristan Burton, and he is from Crown Agents. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Tristan. We're going to start. Thanks again.
Okay, thank you very much for the introductions. And I'm going to start really by giving a little bit of a brief overview and background of the recent history in Burma, and then I will talk a little bit about the work that Crown Agents and myself have been undertaking there in the recent period. So Burma was a former colony of the UK and gained independence in 1948. Aung San was very essential to the independence movement. This is the father of Aung San Suu Kyi, who is seen as a very strong, powerful figure of the democracy movement in country. And her father was instrumental in the move towards independence. Unfortunately, he was assassinated in 1947 before independence was granted. In 1962, there was a military coup, and the socialist state came in, introducing the Burmese way to socialism, which really was a kind of an economic policy that saw the expansion of the military in government and reduced the influence of foreign powers. Moving kind of forward into more recent period in the 1980s. Excuse me. Following kind of major economic downturn and demonetization, people took to the streets in protest, starting in the beginning of 1988, with student protests and culminating in major movement on the 8th of August, 1988, which was met with violent repression from the military at that point, leading to what was the State Law and Order Restoration Council being established. This later transited into the State Peace and Development Council in 1997, but effectively the same vehicle. What happened in 1990 was multi-party elections occurred, of which the National League for Democracy partook and won a landslide victory. This unfortunately wasn't recognised, or they weren't allowed to take power, and and following a wave of kind of house arrests and political prisoners, and the development of excuse me. And leading to the arrest of politically active people becoming political prisoners. 2007, and I think is still fresh in a lot of people's minds, the monks taking to the streets as part of a major protest which was joined by civilians kind of protecting them as they walked through the major cities, Yangon, Mandalay. Again, this was met with monks being taken from the monasteries overnight and repression, and not leading to at that point in time, the transition that perhaps people were hoping. Another major impact within the country was Cyclone Nargis in 2008. This had a huge impact on the livelihoods and the lives of individuals. Estimates around 1 million people killed during the effect of Nargis and the aftermath. Again, the relief effort hampered by the difficulties for international agencies to be able to mobilise and enter straight into the country. There were some delays regarding that. And then in 2010, the general election, of which the National League for Democracy didn't stand, was again won by the Union and Solidarity Development Party, effectively the civilian vehicle for the military. And then on to more recent period of 2011, Thein Sein sworn in as president. He's seen as somewhat more of a moderate and a reformist, and is driving the reform agenda within the Burmese government. One of the effects of this was in October, seeing the kind of the first wave of release of political prisoners during a general amnesty, and also seeing the release of Aung San Suu Kyi from house arrest, which has led to the National League for Democracy standing in the recent by-elections of winning 43 of the 45 contested seats. I think it's important to remember that Burma is still very fragile. There are conflicts still ongoing in the country, in Kachin State. Immediately at the moment, I think people will see on the news the conflict in Rakhine State. Estimates of 90,000 internally displaced people. So one of the major challenges facing the country is peace building and reconciliation in the near future. I will talk a little bit about what Crown Agents has been doing in the country and regionally. So one of our major projects has been with the ASEAN EU programme, looking at regional integration. So this is ASEAN-wide, but involving Myanmar or Burma as one of the countries. And we've been leading on the customs and trade facilitation component of that. Part of which was in 2009 attending the senior officials meeting on transnational crime, which took part in Naypyidaw, of which we were presenting and discussing on coordinated border management. We were also supporting DFID in their humanitarian response to Nargis. This was done by our team being present within country as effectively as soon as visas were accessible to them. We also supported on the procurement side with regard to inspection of commodities that were to be used before being shipped So we had inspectors in Singapore and in Korea looking at bed nets, ensuring that they were of the appropriate quality, plastic sheeting and other commodities that were used in the relief effort. Commencing this year also, we are working with DFID as the principal kind of procurement agent, working in country to support them in their procurement needs for their programs, also supporting them in the design of kind of procurement strategies within their programs. Again, with DFID, we're also supporting some of their civil society program funds through our bank and supporting, providing banking services to them. And the last one on the list you'll see is the Civil Society Strengthening Program, and this is the program that I've been working on for the last 4 years, so since 2008, just after Cyclone Nargis. But certainly this has been really about developing a longer term relationship with many of the local organisations there, and providing with them with tools and skills to be able to better manage, better think about how they want to develop as organisations, to have a greater impact within their own communities with whom they work and for whom they work. So it's been a very rewarding project, and certainly it's something that needs further work and further support with, as the capacity within civil society is, whilst it's being invested in and improving, it still has a long way to go to be what we would consider a fully functional and operational and diverse civil society that people would want to see within the country. Just before I hand over to the next presenter, I will just perhaps talk about some of the key challenges. And for this, I also asked the participants of the workshops that I was running in terms of what they would perhaps want to convey in such a forum. So for some of these relate to some of their ideas, and really the first one is about the restrictions in the operating space for civil society. I think kind of post Nargis there was an opening of the space in which local organisations could operate. I think partly that was forced by themselves internally, and I think that was partly because there was an increase of aid flowing. But since the political opening within the country, a lot of these organisations have found that there has been a constriction in their operating space, their ability to undertake tasks, their ability to get permissions to undertake certain things. So this is one of their operational challenges that they see with the recent changes. There is also weak capacity within government of all the sectors within the country. This has probably been the most neglected, both by government and due to sanctions, the international community. So as the government continues to reform, there will be a requirement for government and the civil service to expand and develop their capacity, so as not to kind of create a huge barrier to any kind of progress and movement forward. And again, just to reiterate the point I made earlier, that conflict continues within the country, and this creates both logistical issues, operational issues to reach those most affected communities, and there is an instability there which has the potential to further impact on the government's reform agenda. Take just yesterday, the Mon National State Party was talking about potentially going back to conflict if if the government didn't address the ethnic inequality issues with them. So again, there is a fragility within the country. And that perhaps links in with the next point, which is the addressing the issues of ethnicity and inclusion. The final 2 points really relate to the kind of the reform process and ensuring that the right incentives, for want of a better word, are there to ensure that the government does continue to move in the right direction, that that reform-minded individuals are still taking the kind of the lead element within there, and that they are able to progress. And then with the increase of attention that the country is under, and the increased aid that has been committed, there is also this issue of coordination of aid to ensure that overlaps are avoided, ensuring that value for money is achieved, and that coordination is there, and that partners work in a way that best achieve outcomes and has the greatest impact within the country. So thank you very much for